Welcome to True Wellness with Dr. D, the podcast where we explore what it takes to live with vitality, balance, and purpose. I am Dr. D, and each week I'll bring you powerful tools, inspiring stories, and expert insights to help you thrive in every area of your life. From health and wellness to mindset and navigating life's challenges, this podcast is your guide to creating a life of true well-being. Be sure to check the show notes and grab your free copy of the True Wellness Checklist so you can get started on your journey to true wellness right away. Now, let's get started. Welcome back to the Hormone Reset Series. I'm Dr. D, and today's truth is one that might ruffle some feathers, but it kind of really needs to be said. So this episode, which I'm calling Why Diets, Detoxes, and Doctors Aren't Fixing It, it's really because if you've been eating clean, doing the things you are supposed to be doing, following the plans, and you still feel tired, puffy, anxious, or stuck in your own body, then you already know what I'm about to say, probably. And here it is. Most of what women are being told to do isn't working. And it's not because you're doing it wrong. It's really because the advice itself is wrong for your body, for your hormones, for your current phase of life. And I really want to talk about that. And you guys, I see this every day, especially when we do kinesiologic testing in our practice with clients. There are no two bodies that are the same. And no matter if somebody's dealing with hot flashes or weight gain or brain fog or those kind of hormonal imbalance symptoms, the remedies, right, are always different based upon somebody's history, their background, what's happening for their body, where those imbalances came from. But today I want to kind of give you a big overall picture. So first of all, I want to talk about the truth about the wellness industry. And, women they're showing up, they're more exhausted than before, they're more bloated, they're more burnt out, and they're being told to do things like cut more carbs, do more fasting. And let me be clear, right? I do think that there are some benefits for fasting, but when we have people in our practice that we are seeing who are completely burnt out, right? Their body is running on overdrive. More fasting increases cortisol more and sends them into a complete tailspin. So we want to be aware of this. Women are being told, hey, work out harder, work out more. And I'll tell you, it's not the answer, right? Or there's some sort of quick fix supplement that's being promoted by somebody for menopause or different hormone replacement therapies or this, that, and the other. Or if you've got mood issues, it's, here's a prescription for antidepressants or anxiety. And we're told to do things. And then what happens when it doesn't work? Well, you're told, hey, you've got to be more disciplined or you're not trying hard enough. Let's be real, okay? The wellness industry itself is built on a one-size-fits-all protocol, right? Because women's bodies are not one-size-fits-all, especially when it comes to hormonal changes in our life, like perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. In fact, there was a 2022 study in the Frontiers in Endocrinology, and that study specifically showed that hormonal transitions like perimenopause, for example, will significantly alter and change the way a woman metabolizes nutrients, responds to stress, and even the way that a woman recovers from exercise. But you see, most programs, most plans, most of these quick fixes that are promoted throughout social media, they do not adjust for these things. In fact, I don't know if you know this or not, but a lot of the research is actually based on males. So yes, that's right, based on males. So here you are a perimenopausal or a menopausal woman in your 40s or 50s or 60s, and the information that you are being given has been designed for a 25-year-old man. And so you're scratching your head and you're like, well, no wonder things aren't working out, because that body right, of a 25-year-old man has completely different ways of operating than your body as a midlife woman. And this is where we run into problems. So one of the biggest things that I hear is, eat more, move less. I'm sure many of you have heard that. And I've got to tell you, the eat more, move less thing, it may, there is some validity to it, especially when you're before 40. But what happens when you hit the 40 period? Well, the eat less, move more goes really out the window. And it's common advice that most women get, but it can be a disaster in midlife because when your calories actually drop too low, your cortisol levels go up. Now, what happens when cortisol goes up? When your cortisol levels go up, your blood sugar increases. Okay. So your insulin increases. And what does insulin tell your cells to do? Insulin tells your body that it's time to store fat, especially around that belly section. So now here you are thinking that you're doing this really great thing, and your body is kind of falling into this tizzy, and it's starting to actually store fat instead of reduce or remove the fat. So there was a study in the Journal of Obesity Reviews, and that study actually confirmed that prolonged calorie restriction in women over 40 can lead to metabolic adaptation. So what is metabolic adaptation? Well, that means your body actually burns fewer calories over time. It's like your body sees the signal like, oh my goodness, you're eating less, your calories are lower. Now your body's smart. Your body knows exactly what to do to keep you alive, right? That is its job. It was ingeniously designed. Thank you, God, right? So what happens is your body adapts. And so then it slows down your metabolism. So what you'll find is a lot of women, and this has happened too over the course of their lifetime, right? They've gained some weight, they've cut back their calories, and maybe for some period of your life, like just doing that has worked. But as you creep up more and more into your midlife, when you're cutting back on those calories significantly, your body says, this is no good. And so it slows everything down. So now you end up with a slower metabolism. So how many of you have done that where you're like, okay, I'm just going to restrict my calories for a period of time, and you do that, and then you go back to quote unquote normal eating. When you get back to normal eating, you're now gaining the weight back that you lost, and maybe even gaining back everything else, plus more. And that's what happens when our body actually begins to adapt. So when women are fasting aggressively, when they're cutting carbohydrates drastically, when they're over exercising, the opposite happens from what you're really wanting. So you'll find that you'll lose muscle. You'll slow your metabolism. You'll increase your cortisol. You'll actually feel worse, even though you're doing these things that will supposedly make you feel better. And then, of course, there is the whole cycle of guilt and shame and blame for oneself that occurs when this happens. And so it is a whole vicious cycle. And the reason why the cycle is occurring is because we're not paying attention to what our body needs and how our body is different during this specific phase of life. So, and then, there is detox. And detox is a grand old buzzword for the day. I had dinner with a friend the other night, and she was talking to me about a program that she had done, and she had spent thousands of dollars, and this is not uncommon in the functional medicine world. And it's certainly not the way I run my practice at South Bay Wellness, but she had spent thousands of dollars before she even began the program because the doctor wanted to run these $1,000 it's about $3,000 worth of testing that she did. And then they put her on this detox, and it actually made her feel sick for months. And the reason being, you guys, like when you're going through a proper detoxification, if your body is actually fully supported and supported in the right way, if your detox pathways are opened, okay, if your body's getting the nourishment that it needs, if you're getting the support, right? honestly, these journeys require someone there to walk beside you to actually help you get through that journey. But this is not what was happening for my friends. So, this is I think a fix that many people are being sold, especially as they're, scrolling social media. So detoxes, you'll see it everywhere, from green juice fasts to, supplement packs that are usually like laxatives, right? To all these fancy liver cleanses, to 3-day quick fixes, it, right? But what most people don't realize is that you cannot detox if your body is not actually draining. So if your detox pathways, like your lymphatic points, right, your liver, your kidneys, your gut, if those are not actually opened up first, then you're going to have an issue, right? Or if you're detoxing too soon, well, what does that do? All it does is actually redistribute the toxins. And as those toxins get redistributed, it can actually make you feel worse. I remember there was a journal article in the Journal of Toxins in 2020, and it actually showed that when bile flow is impaired, that's from your gallbladder, you have poor digestion and you have gut dysbiosis, your body cannot even clear the most basic environmental toxins that you're exposed to on a regular basis. So now imagine if you're trying to do something, right, that's going to flood everything. Now you're in serious trouble. And now this is why most women are coming to this point where they're feeling worse, right? If you've ever done a detox and you felt more bloated or dizzy or anxious or headachy, or you've had like bad skin reactions, it's usually not because the detox isn't working. It's because the elimination pathways weren't actually ready for you to begin to detox. And so now you've got all of these issues that are playing a role and your body is overwhelmed, right? We always teach everybody in the True Wellness Framework to tune into your body. You've got to be present with what it is that your body needs. And heck, if you're doing a detox, you need to be supported through those detoxes. I know when we have clients who start with us at South Bay Wellness, they're always like, I'm worried about detox. I hear all these bad things and people feel awful. And I'm kind of like, all right, hold on a second here. Because that is not the way detoxification should show up, right? Like as you're detoxing, you should begin to get your energy back. Your sleep should go back to normal. Your hot flashes should begin to decrease. Your mood should be normalized. That is what should actually occur, because true detox, it doesn't happen in 3 days. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen through force, okay? It happens slowly, daily, through food, through hydration, through regulation of your nervous system, through restoring your body's natural rhythms, not going back and forth with extreme things. And this is where people get, they get a little messed up in this area. And so when we're talking about resetting our hormones and balancing our hormones, if we are all of a sudden flooding the body with toxins, we're not actually getting to that point of what our body needs. And I've got to tell you, I do have some pet peeves with the functional medicine industry, because functional medicine isn't always the fix. Because, this might surprise some of you coming from me, but sometimes functional medicine also assumes a one-size-fits-all trap. I worked with a company once, and it was like a practice management company and stuff. And then they began to have their own supplement line and stuff. And all of a sudden they were making these recommendations to practitioners to recommend these specific protocols for supplements to their clients. And the truth is, you guys, I have never in my almost 20 years of practice here given every single person the same set of supplementation and called that a detox. Put them on a bunch of smoothie powders and laxatives, because That doesn't work for everybody. Everybody's body is different. So I could only imagine that that approach is a little bit like throwing darts at the dartboard, trying to hit the bullseye versus actually addressing what the body needs. It's one of the reasons why I love, quantum reflex analysis and the kinesiologic testing work that I do in my practice, because we can pinpoint exactly what it is that the body needs so that you can detox effectively. Now, I know, yes, these approaches might be better than conventional medicine in many ways, okay? But the problem is you go in with fatigue and hormone issues and you walk out with, like my girlfriend, $3,000 worth of tests, a bunch of supplements that just kind of match your protocol, but may not be a match for what's right for your body, right? A list full of just rules.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Dr. D. I just wanted to remind you that you can get started on your true wellness journey. Go ahead and check the show notes and grab a link to the True Wellness Checklist. Now, let's get back to the episode. And maybe no one's asked the basic things like, how's your nervous system doing? Are you eating because you're anxious or because you're hungry? Do you even feel safe in your own body? Are you moving your bowels? You can't do a detox if you have constipation, right? Your bowels have to be moving. In fact, I'm not surprised by this, but I did read a study a couple of years ago. It was in Integrative Medicine Reports, and they found that over 60% of clients in functional medicine care actually drop out of their protocols. And it's not because their protocols, it's not because they were lazy, but it's more so because their protocols weren't sustainable or they weren't personalized. And you guys, it's not about data. It's about integration. Like, sure, we know if your vitamin D comes back on a lab test as low, you probably need some vitamin D supplementation. But we also have to ask, well, why is your vitamin D level so low? And we need to ask, what is the best form of supplementation for you? Because it's different for everyone. When we're not asking those questions, and this is something I always encourage to my colleagues, like, hey, we've got to make sure that we're giving people exactly what it is that their body needs, not just smacking the same thing onto a protocol for everybody, because that just, it just doesn't work, unfortunately, right? Because everybody's body is so different. And so that's why if you've heard me speak before, I've got this huge pet peeve with all this stuff touted on social media, right, left, and center, is this is the next quick, big fix. And just to be a little vulnerable here, as many of you know, our practice is fully virtual. And so I've got to be a part of this craziness of social media. And I have this internal conflict with it, because the truth is, I want people to get better. I don't want them to take 1 minute of information that's out on social media and think that that is the cure-all for what it is that they need, because it's just not the case, you guys. You see, healing requires more than labs and plans. It requires presence. It requires rhythm. It requires safety. It requires support, right? It requires somebody on the other end to partner with you and to listen and to understand what it is that's going on for you, to help you make changes that actually make a difference. So I'll share with you what I have found, in over the last 2 decades that I've been doing this, as to what really works, and I've seen it over and over and over again with my clients. So the real reason they start to feel like themselves again is because we work with the body, not against it. So what does that mean? It means rebuilding the rhythm. So morning light, getting out there in the morning, right? If you can get out barefoot on the ground, look to the sun, you are 10 steps ahead. Eating regular meals, consistent. How many of you are out there, you're missing meals and your body's like kind of on this roller coaster, when your body really does like the consistency and the structure, right? Including with sleep. I, had an appointment with a client the other day, and, she was talking about how her normal bedtime is 1 a.m. And I'm like, okay, Your body does its best healing between 10 and 2. So how do we get you to bed earlier? Right? She said, well, I'm not tired. But if you're going to bed at 1 a.m., then you're not waking up till later in the day. So you have to start to shift your clock to get back in tune with your body's natural normal rhythm. That sleep consistency is really important. Of course, we need to talk about if you're having trouble falling asleep or you're waking up in the middle of the night, that has to be fixed as well, right? So the other piece, of course, is stabilizing blood sugar. So before you start changing your calorie counts, you've got to get your blood sugar regulated. No more of these super high highs, super low lows, and having your blood sugar swing all over the place. So that's important. The other thing that's important too is supporting your digestion. Like I said just a couple of minutes ago, if you're not actually moving your bowels, well, that is one of the major ways that your body detoxifies. If you're not doing that and you're attempting to detox, then you are setting your body up for failure. And that's not what we want to do. What we need to do is focus on nourishment, not restriction, right? Give your body, listen to your body, honor the emotional landscape too behind what's happening with your symptoms, right? So honor the fact that if you're feeling anxious because these things are happening to you, or you're feeling depressed because you're tired, you're fatigued, you're achy, you're in pain, okay? And some of that too means creating sustainable routines that are actually rooted in nervous system safety. Your body wants to feel safe. When your body is nourished, when it has what it needs, when it feels safe, that's when your body actually heals. That's when your hormones can re-regulate, right? And as you enter perimenopause, if you're still running around all stressed out, then we have a problem. Because take, for example, menopausal women, your ovaries are shutting down. It's what they're supposed to do. But what happens is that your adrenal glands should be picking up some of the work. But if we move into our 40s or 50s or 60s and our adrenal glands are burnt out because we've been, running on the hamster wheel, not getting, what we need in terms of rest and restoration, not getting the minerals that we need. Maybe we're not eating consistently, or we're overworking out, or we're underworking out, or we're exposed to so many toxins or emotional stress or traumas. I mean, trauma is a part of life. So it's important that we don't actually treat these symptoms like enemies, but we treat them like teachers. We pay attention to them. That's the essence, by the way, of what I've created in the body-led movement and the True Wellness Framework, right? These are the approaches that I take with my clients. So I want to talk about Maria for a second, because she comes to mind and she is the perfect example of that. Maria had come into our practice. She had been through 4 different functional medicine programs, you guys. She had spent over $60,000 by the time she walked into our office. And she was doing all the quote unquote right things. She was fasting. She was doing her cardio. She was eating organic. She was eating clean, and her weight wouldn't budge. Her periods were erratic. She was having daily panic attacks. Right? And her protocol, if you looked at her protocols on paper, they were technically correct, except for the fact that they weren't really connected to her body state. And so we had to slow everything down. I had to get her to reintroduce breakfast because she was not eating until 12 o'clock. I had to get her workouts shifted from these crazy cardio workouts to really focus on walking and strength training. We had to rebuild her minerals and her mineral store and help her body feel safe again in her nervous system. So deep breathing, relaxing, visualization. And I'll tell you guys, within 6 weeks, everything turned around. Her sleep was restored. Her blood sugar was stabilizing. After 2 months, we realized that her cycle was now stable and the weight started to move. So she had this stuck weight that she's like, this weight came on. I didn't know where it came from. I wasn't doing anything different. I was doing all these good things that I was told to do. And the weight finally moved because she stopped fighting with her body. So I want to ask you, where are you still fighting with your body? Where is it that you need to tune in more to her? Because she knows what you need. Sometimes we just kind of, we squash the call, we squash the symptoms with whatever kind of quick fix we have around, and we don't actually give the body what it needs. So here's the truth, you guys. You don't need some fancy supplement on social media. Gosh, what's the new one I saw? Let me remember. It was a probiotic, and this probiotic was the end all be all. It was the only thing you needed to take. This probiotic was going to take care of your estrogen, and all of your menopausal symptoms were going to disappear. And I'm scratching my head. I'm like, okay, but sometimes when you're scrolling at 12 midnight or 1 a.m., those things look really interesting. You guys, don't be fooled by these quick fix kind of things. And the truth is, you don't need another plan that forces your body into compliance. You need an approach that actually honors your body's design. So stop chasing intensity and actually start building consistency. So rather than some other quick fix diet, start to be consistent in the changes and listen to your body. It makes a world of difference. Stop kind of looking for all these different crazy extremes and start cultivating that rhythm. Stop outsourcing your healing to social media or YouTube and actually start partnering with your own biology. When you do this, you guys, your body actually begins to shift. Your hormones come into balance. Your inflammation comes down. Okay. And I really, so if you're needing assistance with us, definitely message us. You can reach me at Danielle@southbaywellness.com, or you can message our office, but you've got to come to partner with your biology instead of continuing to fight with it. So I'd love to hear, you guys, what resonated with you in this episode. And next week, we are going to shift into solution mode. I'm going to walk you through how to truly reset your body with the body-led approach to hormonal healing, because now that you know what's not working, well, it's time to actually learn what will. So we'll dive in next week and get more into this, and I'll see you in episode 4 of the Hormone Reset Series. Coming up here soon. This is Dr. D reminding you to tune into your body, connect with what matters, and embrace the journey to true wellness. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to redefine their health. Be sure to grab a copy of the True Wellness Checklist right in the show notes. Let's keep redefining wellness and empowering change together. See you for the next episode.